you have got to think ginormous, people. I'm telling you. If you shoot for Pluto and land on Saturn, you're still farther than if you shoot for the clouds and land on the frickin' mountain. What's going on, people? Welcome to Lifeaneur, where we're going to go over my personal experience of Growthcon 2020 in Las Vegas. The one and only Grant Cardone hosted his 4th annual event, and it was pretty crazy. So I've actually never been to any of Grant Cardone's big events. A lot of my mentees go to him. They love his content, and you know, some people have opinions one way or the other about him. But I really wanted to get my own opinion about it. So I went to Growthcon. I got a diamond ticket, which was like, you know, $10,000 to buy it. I think they sold it after like the last month for like 20 grand. But I got mine for 10. Got my little 10X journal for taking notes while I was there. And I got this jersey included in my diamond ticket. It also included my hotel at the Delano over next to Mandalay Bay, where actually the event took place. So we got a lot of questions because I told a lot of my audience that I was going to go to Growthcon, and they wanted to get feedback on it and what I thought about it and everything else. And so we have some questions that people were asking me that I figured we'd just do a vlog, post it on the YouTube channel, and go through what are some of the things that I thought. Now, I know a lot of you guys wrote a lot of different questions, but there was about 8 questions that were repeated over and over and over again. So I really want to just kind of go over, you know, some of those, right? So, Mikey, what do we got over here for like the first question?
All right, so the first question we're getting is, you know, why spend $10,000 to $20,000 to go to a 3-day event?
Yeah, yes. I saw that question a ton. Why would I spend $10,000 to $20,000 to go to an event for 3 days? Why would I spend so much money on that? People think I'm crazy for spending this much money on going to an event, and you know, I think I'm just absolutely freaking nuts. They just think I'm absolutely crazy, right? And the honest answer is, why I paid $10,000 for this diamond ticket to go there. It wasn't for the free hotel that was included in it. It wasn't for the after parties. Even though the after parties with Snoop Dogg and Rick Ross were awesome. It was amazing. I didn't even go so I could have front row seats, you know, and be within spitting distance of, you know, Grant over there delivering his messages, right? I didn't even go because I wanted to hear Kevin Hart speak and have all this motivational stuff. To be honest, all of those things I could have done on my own, and all that content I could have gotten on YouTube, right? I went for one specific reason. I paid $10,000 for one specific reason. I gave up money equity. I gave up time equity so that I could build relationships. Remember that word, relationships, with people that are either where I'm at, that think the way I think now, but more importantly, to be around people who are on 10x higher levels than where I'm at, and I can mingle and hang out with them and build relationships with those people that would be almost impossible to find anywhere else outside of that, right? So we had parties that premier tickets and diamond tickets and VIP tickets can go to. We had stage level floor seats and everything else. But the one thing that really sold me on the fact that we have a diamond lounge. And so the other 150 to 200 people that bought diamond tickets, we have our own private lounge that we can go relax at, go network, go mingle together, go socialize together. You get to meet some of the speakers, get some of the testimonials from people that have had great experiences in the 10X culture and family. And meeting even one person that was doing 8 figures better than me, that was doing 9 figures better than me, made it all worth it. And what I actually discovered was even though that there was people there that were doing 9 figures, and I'm not doing 9 figures yet, was I'm on that level mentally. I'm on that level psychologically. I'm on that level discipline-wise to be able to have a conversation and give value and deliver some value to people who are on levels that I want to be on. And in all honesty, giving up the money equity, giving up my time equity out of the 6 pillars of leverage, I gained relationship equity that will give me so much financial freedom in the future and so much time freedom in the future that it's going to pay me back 10 to 1 or even 100 to 1 on what I gave Grant Cardone to have a diamond ticket at his event in Growthcon just this last weekend. So I hope that answers your question. I don't go, and you shouldn't go, honestly. You should not be going to events to learn content. You can learn content all day long on all these social media platforms, on YouTube. You can go to buy an online course and get all this content and be able to do that. And all these major speakers, they all have their own channels as well, where they're all delivering that content there. You should only want to go to events to build amazing relationships. And I tell people that the easiest way to achieve a goal is to find 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 other people that have already achieved that goal. And so by going there, I look at like my $10,000 was the gatekeeper fee to get to where people are that I want to hang out with, that I want to be around. If I hang out with 5 or 6 guys that are doing 9 figures, the chances of me doing 9 figures much faster increases by 100 times. And so I pay the $10,000. I pay the time worth of 3 days of not making any money and focusing on building relationships to be able to get light years ahead of my goals by working and hanging out with people that have already achieved what I want to achieve. Does that make sense? I hope it does.
What did you get out of Growthcon?
What did I personally get out of Growthcon? I got about 40 contacts of great people that were awesome and amazing. I looked up probably 5 other speakers that I had never heard of before that Grant introduced us to that absolutely blew my socks off in terms of content delivery and value in terms of their opportunities that they present. That I now get to follow those people on social media, on YouTube as well. And I probably built at least 5 to 10 awesome relationships with people that I will be able to have in my arsenal forever, right? So how much is having one person in your arsenal now that makes 9 figures or almost $500 million a year in your arsenal? How much is that worth to you? Is that worth more or less than 10 grand? If you say it's worth more than 10 grand, I would agree with you. And that's why, again, I bought the diamond ticket. That's why I did it. So I personally got massive amount of relationship with the people that I would love to have in my life and to be able to find ways to deliver value to them and to get closer to their financial success. That's what I got out of it. So I hope that answers your question.
All right, so the next question is how to get connections at an event like that. So how would you go about making those connections once you're at an event like that?
All right, beautiful. So my secret sauce for making massive connections at any event that I go to, there's 2 rules that I follow. Actually, it's like 3 rules, but it's technically only 2. I'll go into it, right? The first rule that is a must for me is that I always ask people what their name is, and I always remember their name. Okay, that's the first thing that I always do. Everybody's favorite word is their name. For Grant Cardone, his favorite word is Grant. His second favorite word is probably money, right? But for me, I always want to remember everyone's name. The second thing that I always try to do when I'm at an event and I'm making connections is I like to ask a ton of questions. A ton of questions. People love to tell their story about what they do, how they do it, how they make money, on all of those things. So I always constantly try to talk as least as possible about myself and try to talk as much as possible in the form of questions to them. And I let them go off on their 30-second, 1 minute, 5-minute tangents about telling me about them. And then this anchors in my brain. And then they're gonna remember me as somebody who actually is pretty cool because I got to be able to sit there and ask them all the questions that they're dying to tell people. And they got to tell me. And then this way, when it's my turn to talk last, they're going to give me the same respect and decency that I gave them in terms of asking questions. But I try to keep myself short and sweet. Like, what do you do? I'm in the data game. I own a company called Lifeaneur, and I work through and teach people about the 6 pillars of leverage. It's something great. And then they have a question about something, and if I'm able to deliver value to them, I am. But I'm telling you, if you go to an event and you know people's names and you use their names in your questions and you ask tons of questions and you're able to reciprocate with man, that's cool that you did A, B, C, D. And that's awesome that you plan on doing 1, 2, 3, 4, right? Those are the best way to really nail down some awesome high-level connections. And it's what I call leveling up. You gotta pay the toll man to ride the ferry to across the boat river to be able to get to where you wanna go, right? It ain't free. If you wanna hang out with people that know Jim Rohn didn't do events for free. Grant Cardone doesn't do events for free, and paying $10,000 was actually about 1/10 of 1% of what he paid to put those people in my purview. So I paid a small fraction of a percent to be there to hang out with all those heavy hitters. And that's the kind of events that I look for to go to, because those are the relationships that will last a lifetime as long as you understand how to deliver value and also how to receive it. I hope that answers that question.
What did you think about Growthcon?
What did I think about Growthcon? I thought Growthcon, in towards of an event, I give Growthcon an A-, right? It wasn't an A+, only because there was a couple things that made it pretty uncomfortable at the diamond level. I sat next to 2 dudes on my right and then 2 dudes on my left, and 3 of the 4 guys that were next to me were big, and the chairs were very close together, and I didn't really have much room. We were able to make room by disconnecting the chairs on our own and giving ourselves some room, but we were really close together, and I honestly had more room on the plane riding first class to Vegas than I did sitting in Growthcon. But I mean, that was honestly the only real thing that really annoyed me a little bit in terms of that was the seating, right? But the after parties were amazing. The speakers were amazing. The content and the opportunities that Grant presented was absolutely amazing. There was also a little bottleneck with the party, but the way that Grant's team handled that very quickly and effectively, they didn't disappoint, right? And so next year, I'm hoping that we have better seating in towards of, for the big boys that want to sit down, those chairs could be a little bit more spaced out and we'll be a little bit more comfortable sitting in those chairs for 8 to 10 hours a day for 3 days. It gets pretty crunched. Other than that, everything else was absolutely flawless. Grant Cardone's wife starts the whole event off with Dancing with Fire, which it took me like 5 minutes to realize that was her, but it was epic from that day forward. So I thought it was awesome. It was way worth more than the money because of the relationships that I got out of it. If it wasn't for the relationships, honestly, I would never go to events. That's the only reason I go to events, is for relationships. So that's what I got out of it. It was just absolutely epic. If you did not go to Growthcon this year, you're crazy not to go next year. Crazy. So one of the other questions that you guys are asking, which I love you guys asking questions. Keep always asking me questions on things you want me to answer and address, and I will always make those like part of my next video. I can't get everyone's question in every video, but I will do my best, I promise, okay? So one of the other questions was, what was some of the major highlights that I felt I got out of Growthcon? And one of the biggest highlights that I liked was Grant brought on board Donald Trump's campaign manager. And the stuff that he was talking about with data and how much I love data and creating data and repurposing data and converting data over into creating a lookalike audience on other pillars was just absolutely phenomenal. Like the fact that they're going to spend like almost $1 billion on Facebook in like 4 or 5 months. This lets me know how much Facebook is. It also told me that out of all the pillars of leverage on social media, that Facebook by far has the highest amount of users and touch base in the United States. At 61% of the United States people actually have an active Facebook. 61% of people in the United States that are votes worthy are on Facebook. I thought that was crazy to me. I thought that was absolutely crazy. Other big highlights that I liked was definitely Grant Cardone's wife, definitely like participating and interviewing people and also doing her dance routine in the beginning with the fire. Like that was like, that would have freaked me out. You know what I mean? But it was great. They loved it. I loved it. I thought it was awesome. Also networking and meeting just amazingly high quality people that are just like doing things that I want to be doing. And I know that they're 10 years older than me or 5 years older than me, but there were some guys that were way younger than me that are doing it on my level or even higher than I'm doing now, which I thought was just absolutely incredible. And it kind of like woke me up. The biggest highlights of the whole event, in my opinion, was Grant convinced me without a shadow of a doubt that even though I'm thinking bigger than all of my family has ever thought, I'm thinking bigger than anyone in my neighborhood that I grew up in has ever thought, I'm thinking bigger than most people in my state are thinking, I'm still thinking too small. That was honestly the biggest takeaway that I got, was that it took till he was 45, 46 years old to start thinking big. And he went from being worth nothing at like 45 to now being 61 years old and be worth over $300 million because he changed his thinking. You have got to think ginormous, people. I'm telling you. If you shoot for Pluto and land on Saturn, you're still farther than if you shoot for the clouds and land on the freaking mountain. And that's honestly the biggest takeaway that I got from Magic Johnson, that I got from, so many other amazing speakers. I got from Floyd Mayweather. I got from Kevin Hart especially. And I like that they're actually trying to really focus on lifting other people up. I see a lot of speakers, dude, and they're all about themselves. They want all the spotlight on themselves. They want to take all the glory, all the credit. And I love the fact that they actually not only encourage, they almost shove you on stage if you're part of the network and you're going to be a big comer in the future, to actually start taking some of that spotlight. I thought that was freaking amazing, that they let people who may not have been Grant Cardone worthy to speak on his stage, and they still allowed those people to feel like what it's like to be in front of 13,000 people on stage. I thought that was epic. And it was super generous of him to do that. He didn't have to do that. He could have took the spotlight himself. He could have done every interview himself. He could have done everything himself and just made it the Grant Cardone show. He didn't. He was really generous with the attention that he was giving to all the other speakers and all the other people in his network. And honestly, for me, that was the biggest takeaway on his level of character, on who he is as a person. You know what I mean? I know a lot of people want me to say like the after party and, meeting Snoop Dogg or going up to Rick Ross or like hanging out on the G6 and everything else. But that's all material, measurable stuff. I always look at like the level of character that somebody has on what they're doing when they've made a certain level of success to like lift other people up. And I thought that was awesome. That like he made that a priority on an epic level. Wow. So out of all the things in the world that people might say about Grant Cardone this or Grant Cardone that, I will tell you the guy focuses on lifting other people up. And he focuses on giving other people opportunities that he himself never got. That he had to go the hard way to do it, and people are just following that road, and he's sharing the spotlight that he paved. He didn't have to do that. He did not have to do that. And he did that on occasion after occasion after occasion after occasion. He did it countless times. Now, there may have been a time where a speaker or two didn't come, and he had to adjust, and he knew exactly what to do because he had already had it in his heart to share the spotlight. And it's just like, it shows the level of humility and appreciation he has for his team. So that was honestly the biggest highlight that I saw out of Grant. The other question I have that I get asked a lot is, what did I personally think about Grant Cardone? And I think the people that ask me that question are probably people that aren't really too familiar with him, or probably have a bad misconception about Grant Cardone. And the number one thing that I would say on what I think about Grant Cardone is he's super creative in towards of inventing opportunity that the average or middle class would never be able to take advantage of. He creates that opportunity for those people to take on and to be able to share in the leverage opportunities financially that most middle class and average people would not be able to take advantage of, and have not been able to take advantage of for the last 200, 300, 400 years that we have been a country, you know. And so, you know, I like the fact that he is making a shit ton of money by giving and sharing opportunity that the most average person would not be able to take. I thought that was like super epic, you know, on him. I also have to give the guy so much respect because the number one thing that impressed me the absolute most, without a shadow of a doubt, like it actually touched my soul, touched my heart as a father, was the fact that he had his two daughters, 7 years old and 10 years old, and he mic'd those little girls up, and he set them out there on stage and gave them each like their own 10, 15 minutes to send their message out in front of 13,000 people. Like, and he did it because he knew how much it would impact their life and that they would remember this forever. Like, he's planting so many seeds into the next generation, and puts all his heart and sweat and tears. Like, no speakers do that, dude. Nobody does that. Out of everything else in the world, whatever your opinion is about the dude, I mean, in all actuality, the guy shares the spotlight with, you know, spotlight with other people who can deliver value, but he shares the spotlight with his babies, with his two daughters. Has them come on stage. You know, he makes them write their own little script. They make their own little jokes. The one little girl who's 10 years old talked about that the best thing that a 10-year-old could do is talk about 10x because she's 10, you know, and that they cracked her own jokes about Kevin Hart being so tall, you know, and I just thought it was absolutely amazing that during all the chaos, all the planning, all the marketing, all the content creation, all the amazing speakers, the crazy after parties, that the guy still put in his playbook 10 to 15 minutes for each one of his daughters to get stage time. And dude, like, honestly, like, he got my respect after doing that. And it just like touched my soul. Because I preach about generational wealth is not only financial. It's also about experiences. It's also about life. It's also about knowledge. It's also about responsibility and how to handle stressful situations. And I don't know about you, but the most fearful thing in the world for people to do as they get to adulthood is to speak on stage. And he has already got his 7-year-old and 10-year-old almost pro-magnets and loving to be on stage and speak. And to me, that touched my soul. I'm almost going to cry a little bit because how much I would love to be able to have my daughters do that. You know, it was epic. It was absolutely epic. And so, I mean, like, give the guy a shot. You know, come do an event. It's crazy. That alone, watching that alone, made my 10 grand worth it. Just watching him be able to, like, put his girls on the platform. And if you didn't like him doing that, he doesn't give a shit. He's not doing that for you. He's doing that for them, for the future. You know, and it was just, and the audience ate it up. Standing ovations. It was just awesome. They knew everybody. I think everybody there that's a parent felt what he was doing. You know, it was just crazy. And the last question that I actually put on, because I noticed that Grant and all the other interview people were asking all the major speakers, like, what does 10X mean to me? Right? What does it mean to me? And, you know, 10X to me, honestly, you know, if anyone ever watches like David Goggins at all, or has ever been in the military is great at understanding people's ability to push themselves. And there's actually a statistic that says the average person in the United States has about a 90% physical capacity, but only pushes their body about a 30% capacity. And the one thing the military taught me was how to go beyond my breaking points and to be able to create new breaking points. And the military really harped on this, mostly in physical fitness. And 10X, I think Grant's mission is to pass that capacity on in your financial life, in your relationships, in your focus. Just like I teach the 6 pillars of leverage, right? I think 10X is 10Xing the money you have more effectively, to invest more time effectively, to leverage more technology effectively, to maximize and create attention more effectively, to pay the tolls, to pay the gatekeeper its money and time to build those 10X level relationships, and to actually grow your mind, not actually like a knowledge base, but in the levels of resourcefulness. You don't have to memorize anything in today's day and age, but you do have to know how to find the data and know how to read the data to make the right decisions. And so for me, sacrificing some money equity and leverage, and sacrificing some time equity, and to build up some attention, and to learn new tricks of resourcefulness, and the most important thing, to build new relationships, I felt like that's what 10X represents to me. So, thank you. This is my little, rant on the 10X Growthcon. Me, in my opinion, like I said, it's an A-. I would have liked the chairs to be there a little bit more spread out. Other than that, I have no complaints whatsoever. I love the fact that he was able to bring people that he liked and respect on stage, and that he, most importantly, is grooming his girls for massive, massive economical success for them in the future. And that I was able to pay a little $10,000 to hang out with and develop relationships that will make me millions of dollars in the near future. So, like I said, he gets an A- on that. Thank you guys for your questions. Submit more questions if you have it. Write comments if you need to. Subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed to the channel. And, hit that like button if you like the micro content that comes out of this. And, hey, I have nothing but respect for the guy. Thank you.